Hello and welcome to another episode of Launch Legends. Today we're joined by Ken. Ken is actually a programmer and a writer. He did his first launch back in May 2019, and that was a huge success. So far, he's done about 150,000 in sales, and in his first year of launching, he's done about $300,000 in revenue. So there's a ton of value in the interview. Before we watch the interview, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. And if you are listening to this on a podcast, please hit subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you. Hey, Ken, thank you for being on the show. So let's start with telling the viewers who you are and how you got into online marketing.
Okay, sure. First, thanks for having me on the show. This is great. I like doing this sort of thing. Hi, my name is Ken Bluttman. I'm a number of things. I'm a writer, a musician, a programmer, and I'm here on the show because I also launch products and I have that entrepreneur streak inside myself. Should I go into some history at this point, or?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, just talk about who you are. What's your before you got into online marketing? What were you actually doing? I know you told me you were doing you were in publishing, then you somehow became a programmer. And then you made your first bunch of small money with some publisher, and then you got into online marketing. So that's all.
Yeah. Let me just continue. So I'm getting the pace of this thing. So edit some of that out. All right. Some background stuff. So my first career was as a writer. I worked in bookstores just out of high school. Started went up from there to publishing companies in my early 20s. I started as a salesperson, and quickly, I was doing so well, that they promoted me to a sales manager. Eventually, they gave me a new department to run where they didn't know what to expect. It was like a test. They're trying some new accounts and just calling places on the phone. It was a new idea back then. And I got about 10 people reporting to me. And we went way past expectations. They thought it might bring in a couple $100,000, and in less than a year, we blew past $2 million. So was I lucky? Or I think I just have this work ethic of doing everything 110%, a lot of effort. So I started bouncing around different publishing companies. And at some point, as a sales manager, I needed certain sales reports. And the IT department at that time could not give them to me. They would try. They would send me reports. I'd look at them and go, no, this is wrong, that's wrong. I'd ask for changes. I'd wait another week. And I got really frustrated with this. It was terrible. I could not do what I needed to do with this kind of data. So I started programming myself. I first programmed in Excel. Excel has the VBA programming language. And I took that to full advantage and started creating sales reports in hours instead of days. And then I got known by others for this talent. And more requests were coming my way to do some programming. So at some point, I was like, well, I'm going to switch careers because I can actually make more money in programming. So I did that. Ended up, I left the publishing world and I started on a path of half full-time jobs, half consulting gigs, all with programming, different types of programming. And I worked all that time, at least a couple of decades, in mostly in big business, large corporations, Fortune 500 companies. And it was actually great. So much experience, so much exposure to people and ideas. And I worked on a lot of very large projects, some with thousands of users. And sometimes we had to deal with government regulations. Like, for example, I worked in the nuclear power industry, very regulated. Could not even write a line of code without, okay by somebody. But I kept doing that and doing that and doing that. And in the last few years, let me think. So around 2014, I still was writing all the time as well. I published 30, 40 computer books. I started noticing Kindle, and people self-publishing on Kindle. And of course, that was interesting. I'm already a writer. And I thought, well, I don't even have to deal with a publishing company. So I just write the books myself and publish them. So I started doing that and selling books on Kindle. So I would say that's my first online money, per se, let's say. Did that for a little while. And I started taking training courses by people. I spent, was it $1,000, $2,000 for a Kindle training course.
Mm-hmm.
Did I learn some stuff? Yeah. Did I learn anything worth that much money? No. I started to think, well, because I already know a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I then got curious, not so much in what I was learning, but how people were doing this sort of thing. So I started buying into programs, getting products, whatever, ClickBank, Warrior Plus, JVZoo,
Mm-hmm.
and just studying them. Not so much for the knowledge, but just how they were assembled. I was really curious about how people put the products together and sell them,
Mm-hmm.
and all the steps they go through. And I studied this a lot, at least a couple of years, until I was ready to do my own.
So, first of all, what kind of books were you writing? Were those just computer-related programming books or something else?
For the most part, computer books. If you know the Dummies Company,
yeah.
I wrote a couple of Dummies books. My best-selling book was Excel Functions and Formulas for Dummies, not Excel for Dummies.
Mm-hmm.
If I'd written the actual Excel for Dummies, I don't think I'd even be doing it anymore, because imagine that person made a ton of money. So I wrote Dummies books, a few. I wrote for McGraw-Hill, for Wiley, for all the big publishing companies and computer books. And I even got to write some other things, like I wrote a book on photography, and that was a lot of fun. I had to go out and buy a couple of new cameras and all that. I had a ball, I used to take my son around with me and take pictures all over the place, thousands and thousands of them. The one downside was then having to go through them all, the good ones. So I did that.
What was your experience like writing books for Kindle? Did you make a bunch of money, or why did you switch over to doing product launches?
No, I did not make a bunch of money on Kindle. And I mentioned that first course I took for $1,000. That was actually to become a romance writer. At the time, that seemed to be the big market, is romance books. And I'm like, wow, I'm going from writing computer books to romance books. And I tried, but oh my God, I could not do it. This is not me. So then I started to hire out other writers, and I could just see it wasn't, for me personally, something that would make sense for the money. I could see how for other people, if they made a couple hundred a month, 500 a month, whatever it might be, it could be life-changing. Mm-hmm. For me, it was like a day of work, if I just did some computer work. So, yeah, I kind of let that slide a little bit.
Let's talk about your first product launch. What was the product, and how did you launch the product, and what kind of money you made?
Well, first I launched a couple of small things because I was still getting used to how people do launches. So I did a video training, and I did a PDF product, and not surprisingly, they didn't sell. Mm-hmm. A couple of copies, whatever. But it was really great for the knowledge of actually putting a product up for sale. These are on Warrior Plus, so I got to learn the back end and how there's a lot of moving parts. There's where your sales pages are, the buttons, description, all this stuff. So then, my first big product was Puzzle Book Mastery. Mm-hmm. That came out in a little over a year ago, May 2019. Mm-hmm. Leading up to that, so here's the story leading up to that. I hadn't planned for it to be a product. It was just an extension of what I was doing with publishing. Mm-hmm. I mentioned the romance books and the other things. Those are fiction, which I just couldn't make work. But I started getting interested in the low content market that was coming around, the new buzzword, low content. And I saw there's lots of journals and planners. And I thought, well, man, that's boring. I don't need to make an appointment book. I have those online. But I've always liked puzzles. Maybe it's my programmer brain. I like solving things. So I noticed I would get crossword books and word search books and cryptogram books off of Amazon and do them at home. And I realized, oh my God, I could automate all this. I could just write some programs to just spit these things out. To me, behind the scenes, technically, it's something called string manipulation. You're just taking words and doing all sorts of fancy things to them. Mm-hmm. So I wrote this software that actually I was using then to publish puzzle books. And yeah, it's almost like proof of concept. So my very first book, how will this go over? Then it sold right away from day one that it was published. And this was a book I created in minutes. 100 word search puzzles I created in minutes via programming. And I thought that was cool. So I was all like, I'm excited about this. And I started showing it to my publishing friends, other self-publishers. And they were like, you can sell this to people. And I was like, ding, ding, ding. Oh, I have a product, a good product. So I was doing this in towards the end of 2018 is when I was actually using my software. And then so I started around, through that winter, getting it together as a product. Added more to the program, more programming, more features. I like to get a lot of feedback from people. I think it's from my corporate life, getting user feedback. So I invited a bunch of people to test with me. And then I did the the training videos, and then did the sales page. And I have a product. And, talking to my publishing friends, we all kind of figured, maybe you'll sell 100 or 200 copies. Wow. This whole time I got a regular job. I'm like, oh, that would be nice. Maybe it's a vacation money or something. So May 9th, it comes out last year. I wake up the next morning, of course, grab my phone and dial in Warrior Plus, and I see I made something like $8,000 or $10,000 overnight. Okay, that's amazing. And then during the launch, 5-day launch, each day was like 11,000, 16,000, 12,000. By the end of the launch, after 5 days, it was somewhere around $80,000 had come in. Of course, the quick thought is, anybody listening to this, I keep half of that. 50% goes to affiliates. So I'm like wondering, am I going to be able to quit my job? Whoa. Never even occurred to me, even a week before that this would be life-changing for me. Well, after the launch, it just kept selling and selling and selling. It never slowed down for quite a while. Just after a month, like 33, 35 days, somewhere in there, it crossed over $100,000 of sales. I quit my job. I gave notice. I was a high-level manager. I had to give many weeks of notice. I was just, get me out of here, waiting for that last day, So I think my last working day was June 5th. And on June 6th, I formed a corporation and started on my new path. So to tie up a little bit of that. So Puzzle Book Mastery sold and sold and sold and never stopped selling, even to today. Yes, I had 7 sales. It's only 10 o'clock in the morning here. I had 2 so far today.
So Ken, let's go back. So you almost make it sound very easy. So when you said that you published it and you had $8,000 straight away when you woke up, did you do any prep work in terms of recruiting affiliates or just getting them, putting out hype?
Thanks for keeping me focused here. The things that matter, people need to hear. Sure. Let me step back a little bit. Just before the launch, right? I knew getting affiliates on board is a huge part of this. So I had a few names of people who I bought products through them. When they're doing sales for some other marketers with publishing products. So I had a few names, and I contacted them. Mostly through Facebook Messenger. And then, once I invited people to try my product, I realized I have something nobody's seen before. Like we see so many products go, never seen before. And I literally had something no one's ever seen before. Nobody had ever written, maybe when they do newspaper crossword puzzles, there's some automation, but I don't think anybody had written software that does puzzles like these. I'd only found one other product somebody put out years ago, and a lot of complaints about it. And also my software is usually, I do whatever I develop is, I'm used to the standards from the corporate world where everything is super high level and professional. So all of that goes into what I do now. So when these affiliates, they started trying out my product, and I think they just went nuts. We got to tell this one and that one, this one. And then, it's just word of mouth all over the affiliate world, which I found interesting because usually I think they want to be secretive. I got to lead into this hot product. But I guess it was just people didn't want to stop talking about it.
So how long before did you reach out to your affiliates? And how many did you?
Let's see. Probably around in March, I'm guessing, about 2 months before. This whole development and getting it out, length of time was long, I think, compared to what most people do.
Great. So how many affiliates actually ended up promoting you then?
About 1,000.
Wow.
Well, let me put it this way: about 1,000 had applied by the time of the launch. How many? How many? Maybe not. Maybe 800. I have some in them, several hundreds. Of course, most of them did nothing. And I've learned. We'll get a little into that later about how to judge affiliates. But I was just approving everybody. I think that's what it was. Like all these people coming out of the woodwork. And also I was on Munch Eye. So it was very visible that this product was coming out.
I think there's a great lesson there from you. You had a great product. Typically what happens is that you have to have had relationships with the affiliates, prior to your big launch. But you didn't have that. But you had a great product that just did the magic, where a lot of affiliates just jumped onto it purely because it was a great product. So, a product, perfect. I think that's a great lesson there.
Part of what I was saying earlier about spending, a good year or two just looking at other people's products. One thing just for me personally, coming from such a big development world, I could not understand these products, which barely do, by my standards, hope I'm not insulting anybody, they really don't do much. And they would sell. I'd see something on JVZoo or Warrior Plus that I'd buy just out of curiosity. I'd buy the whole funnel. I was just curious. I don't care what they were teaching me. I was more interested in what are you offering that people want, not the actual details, but just the whole length and breadth of it. And I'd see finally, what did this product do? Taught him how to put videos on YouTube or something. Or a little twist, like we'll show you how to put the little, text in the videos, and it sells 1,000 copies. I'm like, I don't get it, And I'd see other programming products come out by people that their design, it's not responsive. Web design, it's there's errors in it. Frustrating for me. It was frustrating to look at these, and I kept trying to find the secret in there. What am I missing? What am I missing? There must be something in there I'm not getting that these are so successful. No.
I think video sells quite well in that space. And the second thing is that they all know each other. So
I don't know if I answered your question about affiliates. Keep me focused. I'll talk endlessly all day. So.
Right. So you were saying that you learned a few things about affiliates. What was that?
Well, I was never really much of an affiliate myself, so let me just put that out to start. So I really didn't see some nuances. I mentioned before something about them being secretive, so I didn't realize that. Even though I was saying they would share my product coming out to each other, I've learned since my launch and through a couple of others, how you can't offer discounts and not tell people, or make a deal here, or then you got to worry about this one. Or I did make a mistake, not on Puzzle Book Mastery, but on a later product, where the same time the product came out and affiliates were selling it, I sold it to my list at a discount. I just thought, isn't that what you do? They're already your customers. You give them a special deal. They're like repeat business. Oh, wow. I had a few big affiliates who were like so pissed at me for doing that. I just didn't know. I thought that was okay. So as I go, I do learn more and more how to take care of affiliates, how to keep them in the loop, because they're so vital.
Great. So, you had a successful launch, and you quit your job. You became your own boss. So what's happened since 5th of June or 6th of June when you quit?
So I've come out with 4 more products since then. After the Puzzle Book Mastery, which was aimed at adults, a lot of people asked me to make a kids one, which I came out with just a couple of months ago. But prior to that, I came out with a general low content product, because that's hot market. So I did come out with a product that does make journals and calendars and stuff. Then I programmed and came out with this. It's my baby. This really cool graphics program, super cool. And of course, I love it, and it didn't sell. So,
why did I don't know. Why did it not sell?
I don't know. The wrong market, wrong message. It's named Instant Social Quotes. Okay. It's still out there. You can probably find it. You ever go on Facebook or somewhere else and you see these nice images, like you might see like mountains or something, and there's usually some inspirational message across it. So I built a program that You upload your pictures, you upload your messages. My software puts them all together and spits out hundreds of them for you. I guess I'm big on automation. Um, uh, so I put these as a test. I'd make these with my software, put them on Facebook, and of course everybody's hitting like and love and all that,
Mm-hmm.
But when the product came out, who's the audience? Just didn't match somehow. Then I started realizing maybe the audience is like graphic designers or something. So I'm gonna come out with it again.
Let me ask you this: you did a great job with your first product by getting lots of feedback.
Yeah.
And you had a success. What happened with this one? Did you get too confident and just launch the product without feedback?
I don't know. I think this is part of me still learning about products and how they do. I came out with the Puzzle Book Mastery, just to catch up for a second with some facts here. So it's now sold. It's a little under 5,000 copies. Wow. It'll probably hit 5,000 copies in another month. Mm-hmm. Never stop selling. So I'm bringing this back in because I want to tie to how other products did. Mm-hmm. It sold just Puzzle Book Mastery has sold about $180,000 now.
Okay.
Maybe a little more. So I'm mentioning that because my next product, the low content one, I'll go into some numbers and how they did well or not. The low content is called Low Content Creation Machine. That sold 500 copies right away. And then slowed down. So it had its cycle. It had like a peak and then stopped pretty much. But so that was a success, right? 500 copies. I'm still gauging. Well, after selling thousands of this one, is 500 is a good number. Yeah, I guess it is. Then it came out with the social quotes one. Sold 30, 40 copies maybe. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I got to go back and revisit that and see what's wrong. Then it came out with kids' puzzle books. So it's like Puzzle Book Mastery, but it is aimed at making books for children. A little side note here about how I had to market that. I think this might be interesting. The name. All right. So Puzzle Book Mastery, that's kind of clear. It's not even talking about an age group or anything. But with kids, I had like Kids Puzzle Book Mastery. And I was going with that name for quite a while until I realized, wait a minute, this sounds like I took my product and made it simpler for kids to use. Mm-hmm. Wrong message. It's not for kids to use. It's for adults to still use to make kids' books. Mm-hmm. So I had gotten materials ready and had a box cover made and all this. And I'm like, I got to go back. So I changed it to Kids Puzzle Books. I released that, in March. April, somewhere. And see how much I'm always forward thinking. I'm always like, what's the next thing? Once I'm done with something, okay, that sold about 700 copies so far, and that's selling every day.
Nice.
That one's brought in. See, I don't even look at those numbers too much. You know what number I look at? I look at just the total of my sales.
Okay.
Not so much product by product. So as of now, in 1 year, I'm closing in on $300,000 of sales.
Wow, that's not bad for the first year in the business. That's really great. So just imagine someone who's listening to this and is thinking, "Oh my God, okay, if he can do it in 1 year, I can do it too." What's advice you would give those people?
I can't deny the fact that I came into this with a ton of experience in many areas: sales, programming, writing. Even I write my own sales copy. All of it. So, what advice can I give you? Let's get away from those skills. It's the first and most vital thing. All that other stuff is irrelevant if you don't have this first thing, and that's mindset. You have to believe you can do it. If you don't have that, the rest won't work. Or you'll get lucky, and you don't want to get lucky. You want to have a plan of action. So you might do what I did. See, I studied for a long time before I released a product. Mm-hmm. I wanted to feel confident, and I wanted to feel it will go well. And part of that process was also learning all the steps so I could feel that it's doable. But none of that, even for me, would I have done if I didn't believe it in the first place. Mm-hmm. If you believe you can do something, you may or may not do it. But if you don't believe it in the first place, You already gave in. And part of that also is failure. You might hear entrepreneurs talk about failure. We do need failure. It might devastate some people, but like I mentioned, a product launch that didn't do well. A failure, yeah, I guess so. But I don't feel like I failed per se. I feel like I learned. So even failures are like learning experiences.
Great. Ken, thank you very much. That was great advice. And thank you for being on the show.
Okay. Thanks for having me on.